It's Nikki. How you doing? Welcome back to part 2 of the messy middle. I wanted to talk about this messy middle like I was speaking about it yesterday, because there is so much emphasis on the beginning and the end of whatever it is that you're going for. So maybe you've got a project, maybe you've got a big idea, maybe you're starting a business, maybe you want to do something creatively. And the beginning part is so championed, like get your stationery, get your plan, scribble everything down, get some post-it notes. And likewise, the end, when you actually achieve that thing, that's when people are around, or they'll say congratulations. But I want to talk about this messy middle, because as I mentioned yesterday, the messy middle is probably 80% of the whole process. You might spend 10% getting things ready, putting a strategy together, making a plan, jotting a few things down. And equally, the celebrating at the end might be the final 10%. But that 80% in the middle that you are navigating, you're trying to figure out, you're trying to do the right thing, you're trying to dig deep when you really just want to hide under a duvet and just watch telly and eat good food and all of the above. Today, I want to follow on with some tips of things that you can play with and look at and experiment with and see how they apply to you. Yesterday, I finished by talking about that trickiness. And when we face hurdles, when we face obstacles along the way. And I know that everything that I've ever done in my life, or that I've sat around a table and heard other people's stories, whether that's in business or friends or whatever, nobody gets to just sail through things like, yeah, I just did this thing and it was fine and it was all systems go. Usually, to get from point A to point B, there is that messy middle bit, that bit where it's like, whew, we didn't think it was going to happen. Or, yeah, it was touch and go at times. Or, wow, this really challenged me. And I think certainly in this self-development world, there can be this sense that at that point, you should, well, I guess it's two sides of the extreme. It's either it's not an alignment, the moon's in the wrong position, so therefore maybe it's not meant for me and I shouldn't do it. Or there is that other end of the spectrum where it's like, if it feels hard, I don't want to put any pressure on myself. And I think there is your own edge, I guess, your own way where you're like, oh, this is stretching me, this is challenging me, but I still feel safe. I still feel in integrity. I still feel like I can continue, but I'm feeling that burn. Almost like you're doing a stretch or something. I'll watch people in yoga. I'm like, wow, that woman's leg is right over her head there. Great, brilliant. And then I'm looking at my leg and I'm like, yeah, I'm not quite there. So I've got to find what my edge is. That point from being like, Nikki, the leg is just out to the side. It's not doing anything. But also that moment where I can feel that pull, where I can feel that expansion, but I'm not putting myself in danger or discomfort. So here's something that you can play around with. If you're in that messy middle and if you feel like you're being challenged, or one of the things that comes up for me all the time is it's not happening quick enough. Come on, it's not happening quick enough. And I often think, I now know this about myself, like I would hate to say that I'm an impatient person, but I kind of am. And I know that I have to bring a bit of humor. I have to bring a bit of lightness to it, because if I was going on a date, I'm not, by the way, but if I was going on a date, there would be no room for my impatience there of like, so are we going to book in the second date then? Are we going to get married? What are we going to do? Are we going to buy a house together? What's happening? What's going on? So with any other kind of goal, you have to have that ease and that lightness to it. Because if I went on a date and I was saying to that person, come on then, what's happening? What's going to happen? They're going to go, whoa, too much. too much. It's too much. Hang tight, like hold back a little bit. And that's what happens sometimes when you're in that goal. Like, you've got to find that way where it's like, I'm really like being proactive and I'm doing all of the things, but also I'm not clinging onto it so tightly that it can't breathe or it can't move. So when you get trickiness in your messy middle, this is for you to signal to yourself, I need to move something here, or I need to intervene. And I think sometimes that when we are in the trickiness of like, it's not happening quick enough, or I started this thing, or it's not working, or there's just that kind of conflict, I want you to stop and say to yourself, so what do I need? What's going on here? What's going to help this situation? And sometimes for me, that is, I'm going to need some more support with this, or I'm going to need longer to work on this thing, or I'm going to have to go slower than I would like, or I'm going to have to close my laptop tonight. I'm going to have to close my laptop and not revisit for a little while because I just need to have time away from that moment. Supporting yourself through that trickiness is one of the best things that you can do. The next thing, what have you done already? So yesterday I was talking about my messy middle, one of the many messy middles, when 10 years ago I was doing my coaching qualification. And 10 years ago at this point, I was halfway through. I'd set myself a goal of a year. I was like, right, okay, let's see if I can do this qualification, because I was working full time. And yeah, it was all a lot. It was a lot of work as well. So I was getting up early in the mornings. I was working a full-time job. I was working in the evenings and working all weekend, trying to make it all work. And the temptation when you're in that messy middle is to have that sense of, oh my goodness, there's so much more to come. Like, I'm only halfway there. And what I would love you to do is to stop and take a moment and look over your shoulder. Look at all the amazing things that you have done up until this point. All the amazing, brilliant experiences, talents, skills, moves, shifts, mindset, growth, expansion, whatever it is, and look at what you've done so far. We used to live at the bottom of a hill, and every time I used to march up this hill to the shops, sometimes I would like give myself like a cheeky look over the shoulder, like, all right, you're nearly halfway. You can see that bus stop coming up and you can't really see your old house anymore. And that used to help me get up the hill, because as soon as I looked over and I couldn't see that in the distance anymore, I knew I was onto it. And so if you're beginning and you're really wanting to make those moves, remember all of the stuff that you've brought to the table. And I know sometimes we can feel like we're starting from scratch, like, oh, I've never done this before, or this feels different this time, or this is going to require something else of me. Think about those transferable skills. Think about those amazing times in your life where something magical or unexpected or spontaneous or surprising has happened. Sometimes I'll have clients that will say, I just don't know anybody. Like, I feel like I'm knocking on loads of doors and nobody's opening them. And so with regard to that, I would always say, but what doors have opened before? How have you met people? What's happened? Was there a weird sequence of events where suddenly you were sitting next to somebody on a train and you got chatting and they were like, do you know what? I need to give you my number because I know X, Y, and Z. So many of moments of that have happened for me over time. But that has only happened when I've been open, interested in the world, in conversation. That's when those moves have happened. Not when I've been sitting with my arms folded going, it's not happening. Right. Well, this is rubbish, isn't it? When I've been in that negative headspace. So sometimes you just have to mix it up. Sometimes you need to look at other areas of your life or your business or things that have worked in the past And even if in this messy middle of this one thing that you're working on, even if you're not feeling that evidence or that confidence in where you are right now, borrow stuff from other people. Borrow stuff from people that you don't know yet. Borrow things and apply them to yourself. Because if there is somebody out there who has done what you want to do, it's totally possible for you as well. Also, sometimes I'll borrow different parts of success from other parts of my life. So I might say, I don't know, I might go to a gratitude process, for example. So if I'm trying to make some moves in my business and I'm in that impatience, like it's not happening quick enough, I might look at an area of my life, I don't know, such as health, and go, gosh, I'm really grateful that my body, age 41, is still... I'm talking like it's some kind of project. It's not. But sometimes I'll go, you did that great thing in yoga the other day. Like, well done for like walking instead of getting the bus, or whatever it might be. Or sometimes I might say, you cooked that brand new dish the other night that you'd never cooked before. You need to sometimes bring a bit of that creativity and bring that creativity to what you're working on. So basically using little sprinkles of what has gone before to shake things up right now. 3 more things. The master to-do list. When you are stuck, when you are feeling like things are not moving quick enough, this is your invitation to grab a big piece of paper and a pen in a very messy, get everything down on paper way. And I call this the master to-do list. So when I was in that space of coaching and going, oh my goodness, I've got another 6 months of this. I feel like there's so much to do. Like I had to do nearly 40 hours that were assessed. I had paperwork. I had in-person workshops. I had a 10,000 word essay. I needed to set up my website. Like there were so many things. And one day I got the biggest cup of tea and I sat down and I wrote out everything that I would need to do in order to get to that point where I could submit everything. And it looked quite frightening, like when I'd seen it all on this big piece of paper. But then what I did was I took all of those notes that I'd written from a non-edited place and I put them in a spreadsheet. So each and every day I knew what I needed to do, what was actually left. Because we can all get stuck in these moments of being in research mode or being in busy mode. And when we're in that headspace, it doesn't help us because it doesn't help us to progress. And my aim as I was moving through this was to have that sense of satisfaction of I'm actually getting somewhere. I'm actually making progress. So if you're feeling like you've got all sorts of things swimming around in your head, first and foremost, if you can get them down on paper, which is a way that you can just literally throw them up and put them there, and then put them into some sort of spreadsheet or order. So you then go, right, I've got 2 hours on Thursday morning. What am I going to work on? And you can pick things that you can work on from your spreadsheet or however you like to document it. So by the end of Thursday morning, you're like, bloody hell, I've done 3 things there. Great. I'm 3 steps closer to where I want to get to. The next thing I would love you to do is to make sure that you are celebrating each point. So it might be, I'm going to celebrate each work session or each focus session that I put on this goal. One of the things that I've started to do is with my yoga practice. So I started going to hot yoga again 7 months ago, and I make a note in my notes of my phone every single time that I go. And another little bonus that I do is that when, for this particular yoga studio, you have to sign up for 6 months. So every time I go, I write down, that was the day, that's what I did, and I divide the number of classes I've done by that total amount that I've paid. And I see the price per class going down every single time I go. I mean, I'm paying it regardless. You sign a contract, you know, that's what you do. But there's something about it where I'm like, okay, this is feeling like it's part of my life. This is feeling like part of the person that I am. And that is a trick about really stepping up to the plate in terms of your goal, in terms of your own progress, of being the person who. I've touched on it slightly, but making sure that you are scheduling time and you're knowing what you're doing in that time. It's so crucial, especially when everything is accessible. Our internet is on our phones, it's on our laptops. We can be at our desk, we can be on the train, we can be in a workspace, we can be in our bed, on our sofa, wherever it might be. And I know sometimes I can convince myself that I'm working on something, but I'm not really. I'm watching the telly or I'm thinking about something else. And one of the best things that I've done in recent years is to give myself focused time. So this doesn't have to be a complicated process. It could simply be, right, what time is it now? It's 1:15. From 1:15 until 2:00, I am going to be doing X, Y, and Z. By the time 2:00 comes, I want to have done this. Great. And therefore, knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it will give you an idea also of how you work. Sometimes I will have a child-free day and I will write 20 things on my list. If I only get 12 of those things done, I somehow feel a bit disappointed. But what I haven't done is I haven't made decisions based on the time that something actually takes. Don't know if anybody can relate, but I always get myself in that pickle. Whereas if I actually monitor how long things take, I can then plan my time better and work to my strengths, and also get that dopamine hit at the end of it of like, great, I did it. Finally, to work out what your rhythm is in terms of your goal. And really understanding maybe how you work in terms of your week and working with that rather than against it. So if you're a female, you might work with your own cycle, for example, working with the times of the month where you're more energized or less energized. So you do more work when you're energized and then you ease off a little bit when you're maybe in that PMT stage. When you also work with your time of day and your rhythm, you're going to get more work done. I know that if I need to get work done that is, say I'm on a deadline for something, I would always rather be that person who would get up really, really early to do the thing rather than working to 2:00 at night. I would be like some kind of film montage where I'd like be falling asleep on my laptop. So work with your rhythm. Equally, if you know in terms of your week that you are a Monday to Wednesday person, do all your client calls or do all of your things or whatever it is then, and get them done and out of the way. If by Thursday and Friday you're like, yeah, I'm already kind of in weekend mode, then use your time to do things that support that. That's it from me today. I hope that has been useful. If you haven't listened or watched part 1, do go back and watch that. But I would love to know, what are you working on? Where do you need help? See if you can identify what is actually going on today. And I think really spending some time identifying what we need or where our gaps are is going to be so useful. There are some people who can just do things really, really easily. And then they might have that like, what? Why can't you do that? It's just basic. Like, just do it every Friday morning. We know that we are all wired very, very differently. And the trick is to identify how you are wired so you can best support yourself through this process. If I can help you, I am taking bookings now for December and January. So if you want a pick and mix session, if you want a strategy session, if you want to sign up and do like 6 months of sessions, so you know that you've got that accountability, you know that you've got that support, have a read of my Work With Me page. I do a free strategy call, so you can ask me questions, we can get to know each other. I can also make sure that I'm going to be the best person for you. If I'm not, I will absolutely say. But head over now, go to my Work With Me page. Also go to my contact page and my freebies page, and you can book a free session with me there. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and I'll see you again very soon. Lots of love. Bye.